Once you know your way around Sibelius, it's time to create your own score. If you have a score open, go ahead and close it. And to create a new score, you can use the shortcut Command-N on Mac or Control-N on Windows, or click on the New Score tab in the Quick Start window. In the New Score tab of the Quick Start window, there's a library of manuscript papers that you can choose from. A manuscript paper is Sibelius's version of a file template. It's a Sibelius file that contains a specific number and type of staves or instruments. Manuscript papers do not contain any notes, text, or other score objects. They're a blank canvas on which you can begin inputting your music. There are several categories of manuscript papers, each separated by a section bar. Clicking on a section bar will collapse or expand the contents of that category. When the sections are expanded, manuscript paper preview icons will appear. There is a No category section at the top of the manuscript paper library. Within that category is a blank manuscript paper. For the purpose of building a score from scratch all by yourself, you'll choose the blank manuscript paper. Click once on the blank manuscript paper icon, and your manuscript paper will open in a new score setup window. If you clicked more than once on that manuscript paper icon, you will have skipped the new score setup window entirely, and Sibelius will have opened your manuscript paper in a top-level score window. If this happened to you, close the top-level score window and start over again at the Quick Start, making sure that you only click once on the manuscript paper to arrive at the new score setup window. The new score setup window is arranged with a preview of your manuscript paper on the left and a large feature-filled area on the right that contains several options for you to scroll through to begin building your new score. It's best to set up as many score options as you can within the new score setup window before clicking the Create button to open your new score. Following is a brief description of the options that you can choose from in the area on the right-hand side of the new score setup window. First, the document setup area. This is where you can choose the page size and orientation for your score. You can always change this later after the score is created, but give it your best guess for now. At the very least, you should know what size paper you'll be printing on, and you'll want to choose that page size to start with. There's also an option to choose a house style. House styles consist of a large and diverse group of advanced features and settings that can cause a score to look stylistically different from any other. House styles are global settings specific to any one score, similar to how preferences are global to any one application. Sibelius provides a variety of preset house styles that you can choose from and experiment with. However, throughout this course, I'll ask that you choose the default setting, Unchanged. That way, my score will look and function similar to yours as we go through the training. The Change Instruments button within the Document Setup group is particularly important if you have a blank manuscript paper, because clicking this button takes you to the Add or Remove Instruments window, where you can search for and add instruments to your blank score. If your manuscript paper already has instruments included in it, you can use the Change Instruments button to get to the Add or Remove Instruments window to change the instruments in your score if you'd like to. On the left-hand side of the Add or Remove Instruments window, you can search for instruments that you'd like to add to your score. First, you'll want to select a main library of instruments to choose from. The Sibelius default is set to Common Instruments, which is usually sufficient unless you're looking for an instrument that is a little less common, like a didgeridoo. Now, these libraries act as filters. If you're building a jazz chart, you may want to choose jazz instruments to filter out all of the non-jazz instruments and to make it easier for you to find and add the jazz instruments to your score. We'll go ahead and keep this set to Common Instruments for now. And in the Instrument section below that, instruments are grouped into families, which can be expanded to show their instruments by clicking on the disclosure triangle next to the family name. When you find the instrument of your choice in the list of instruments, you can either double-click on the instrument to add it to the score, or you can select it and then click the Add to Score button. As you add instruments to your score, they'll start appearing in the Staves and Score box on the right-hand side. For the sake of this example, I'm going to add a flute and oboe, a clarinet in B-flat, a horn in F. I'm going to scroll down here and add a piano, and finally, a violin. And I'd like for you to do the same. Add 5 or 6 instruments to your score with at least one transposing instrument and at least one grand staff instrument. Notice how the grand staff instrument, like the piano, appears in the staves and score list as two separate instruments of the same name, one labeled A and the other labeled B. This is to show you that the instrument contains two separate staves. For now, don't worry about the staff size column in your staves and score list. It provides you with the ability to change the size of each of the staves in your score independently. There are several settings, a few restrictions, and a variety of ways to set the size of each of the staves in your score. Since it can be a fairly advanced feature, I recommend that you leave your staff size set to normal for now. If you want to delete an instrument that you added to your score, from within the Add or Remove Instruments window, select the instrument's name in the list, and then click the Delete from Score button. And if you'd like to change the order of the instruments that you've added to your score, select an instrument's name in the list, and then use the Move Up and Move Down buttons. One more quick tip from me before we leave this window. Avoid using the Extra Staff Above and Extra Staff Below buttons entirely. If you'd like to add two or more of the same instrument to your score, it's absolutely best to add them separately from the Add Instrument box on the left, rather than adding one of them and then using the Extra Staff feature to add another. You will run into formatting and other strange behaviors later if you use the Extra Staff buttons, so I would suggest that you avoid using them entirely and forever. When you're done adding staves to your score, click OK to save your changes and to exit the Add or Remove Instruments window. Rest assured you will be able to return to the Add or Remove Instruments window at any time while you're working in your score, so you don't have to stress out about making sure your instrument list is final and in the exact score order you want them in right now. You can always add, delete, and change instruments later. The next step along our new score creation journey is the time signature setup. There are a few important features to discuss about time signatures, so we'll dig into that topic in the next video, and then we'll resume creating a new score after that.